Some moments in life are so small, so quiet, that most people walk right past them. But every now and then, a tiny moment carries the weight of the whole world inside it. This is one of those moments, a story about two little girls, a struggling father, and a lunchroom question that changed everything. Because sometimes, the most powerful act of kindness doesn't cost a single dollar. It only costs the willingness to open your heart. Before we get into this story, if you've ever been touched by the kindness of a stranger, or if you believe the world needs more warmth in it, please take a second to subscribe to Heartfelt Moments, hit that like button, and drop a comment below telling us about a time someone's kindness left a mark on your soul. Your story might just inspire someone else today. Now, let's begin. Marcus never planned to be a single father of twins. Life had a different idea. When his daughters, Lily and Layla, were just 18 months old, their mother walked out the door and didn't come back. No warning, no goodbye, just an empty closet and a note on the kitchen counter that said, "I'm sorry. I can't do this." Marcus stood in the kitchen that morning holding two toddlers, one on each hip, staring at that note for what felt like an hour. Then he folded it up, put it in a drawer, and never opened it again. There was no time to fall apart. He had two little girls who needed breakfast. The years that followed were hard in ways Marcus never talked about. He worked two jobs, a warehouse shift in the mornings and a delivery route in the evenings, just to keep the lights on and food on the table. He learned to braid hair by watching YouTube videos at midnight. He learned to sew back on buttons and comfort bad dreams and explain to two 6-year-olds why sometimes Daddy couldn't make it to the school play, even when it broke his heart not to. He did everything alone, and he never complained. Not once. But children notice things that adults try to hide. Lily and Layla noticed that their lunchboxes were sometimes lighter than their classmates. They noticed that some kids had name-brand sneakers and fresh backpacks, and they had last year's everything, scrubbed clean and made to look as good as possible. They didn't complain either. They were their father's daughters, after all. What they didn't know was that on certain weeks, Marcus skipped his own lunch entirely so there would be enough food for their boxes. One Tuesday afternoon in the school cafeteria, something happened that would set this whole story in motion. A new student had just transferred to the school, a boy named Daniel. He was quiet, nervous, the kind of kid who walks into a room and immediately looks for the nearest wall to stand against. He carried his lunch tray slowly across the cafeteria, scanning the noisy tables, and every seat he moved toward seemed to suddenly fill up or shift away. Kids can be cruel without even knowing it sometimes. Lily saw him first. She tugged on Layla's sleeve and the two girls looked at each other the way twins do, that silent conversation that takes about half a second. Then Lily stood up, waved her arm high in the air, and called out across the cafeteria in the loudest, brightest voice she had. "Hey, you can sit with us." Daniel froze. He looked around, certain she must be waving at someone else. But Layla was already pulling out the chair across from her, patting the seat like it had been saved just for him. He sat down. His shoulders dropped about 3 inches. He let out a breath he'd probably been holding since that morning. The three of them ate lunch together that day, and the next day, and the one after that. When Marcus picked up the girls that Friday, their teacher, Ms. Briggs, stopped him at the door. He braced himself, as single parents often do, expecting to hear about a problem, a missed permission slip, a behavioral issue. Instead, Ms. Briggs looked at him with soft eyes and said, "Mr. Marcus, I just wanted you to know what your daughters did this week." She told him the whole story. About Daniel, about the cafeteria, about how one small wave from Lily had turned a lonely boy's worst week into something bearable. They didn't hesitate, Ms. Briggs said. Most kids looked away. Yours stood up. Marcus drove home in silence. When they pulled into the driveway, he turned around in his seat and looked at his girls, still in their school uniforms, backpacks in their laps, blissfully unaware that they'd done anything extraordinary. "Ms. Briggs told me what you did for that new boy," he said. Lily shrugged. He looked sad. "Daddy." Layla nodded. "We didn't want him to eat alone." Marcus had to turn back around before they saw his eyes go glassy. He sat there for a moment with his hands on the steering wheel, thinking about all the cold lunches he'd skipped, all the late nights, all the moments he wondered if he was doing any of this right. He had his answer now. Those little girls hadn't learned that kind of instinct from a lesson or a lecture. They had learned it the way children learn everything, by watching. By growing up with a father who quietly, invisibly, without any applause at all, had spent years choosing other people's needs before his own. You never know who is watching you. You never know which small, silent act of yours is planting a seed in someone else's heart. Kindness is not always a grand gesture. Sometimes it's just a little girl standing up in a loud cafeteria and waving her arm at a lonely stranger. Sometimes it's a tired father skipping lunch so his kids can have enough. The world changes, one small moment at a time. And it starts with you. Go be someone's wave today.